What's up, everybody? Mike Stadler here.
Karl with you.
The Obsession Podcast, back at you, bigger and better than ever.
Bigger and better. New deer.
New year.
Right on. Oh, there's one deer that isn't going to make it through, though, Mike.
This guy.
That's the one we found dead.
Yeah, that's the one we found dead when we were opening up the campsite plot. Late fall, early winter, actually, when we were doing that. But yeah, a deer we had on the property all year. I remember him because he had this flat brow.
Yep.
He actually broke that off maybe a week before we found him. We figured he got hit on the road.
Yeah.
And made it up to the top of my ridge, and that's where he laid.
Yeah, right on the edge of one of the bedding areas.
Sucked.
It did suck.
But yeah, it is what it is. And
got any questions over there? What you got?
I do got some questions.
One or two questions.
I
All
got
right.
a couple here. Got an annoying dog down here. Here's a good one, I think. Guy asked, do you set your food plots up for social and or rut hunting separately? So for a social gathering of the deer, or just a rut hunt, or
Well, I don't know. That's it. You're right. That is an interesting question. I don't set food plots up for the rut, hunting deer for the rut on food plots. I set food plots up to establish deer movement. Now, is that for rut? You know, I don't. Not that we haven't shot deer on the food plot during the rut, or near the food plot. You know, usually catch those bucks cruising. But I think rut. I think. Well, there's a couple ways to look at it, I guess. Depends on if your buck to doe ratio is decent and deer respond to calls or calling, and you can call to them. Put out decoys, things like that. The bucks during the rut are going wherever the does are. I guess I would understand the thought of hunting bucks on the edge of food. I mean, kind of, what do you think about that?
I think this kind of came up to me because I was talking to a guy, and he asked me, about the ponds that we put in here at my place.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, those will be a good, social deer spot. And I was like, I don't know what that means. It's a water hole.
Yeah.
I mean, do I expect all the deer to use it? I would at some point, yes. But I didn't put it there to congregate deer, I guess, is what. I always think of food plots. This is me. Mm-hmm. And people say a lot. I think of them as like a destination plot that they're going to,
right,
for a reason, or in specific spots for a reason, I guess.
I mean, really, we set our
a staging type plot, a destination type plot. Every plot gets used. I don't think they get used any different. I think it depends on, like how you said, how the deer move.
Yeah.
And where they're traveling, and that's kind of what we try to do, is get them,
Our initial thing with food plots is to separate our doe herds.
Right, it's segregating deer is what we say.
So less social pressure. I don't know, I think there's a misconception about food plots, where food plots have to be a spot where deer congregate.
Yeah.
Honest truth, deer, like let's just say separate groups of does, really don't like to be around each other.
No.
You'll have, you see it here at your place, you see it at my place, where we'll have one certain group of does that stays on such and such food plot, and then a totally different group on the other side of the property, east and west.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe one or two other smaller groups in the middle.
Yeah.
And that's what we set our food plots up. But they're also strategically placed to create buck movement in between them.
Yeah.
And that's where we pick off our buck.
That's kind of what I was going to say, because not saying I haven't shot a buck in a food plot that came there to feed.
Right.
But the majority of the bucks that I've killed, especially here, have come into a plot to look
Yeah.
or I've called them into it.
Yep.
And they've been there for one reason, and they're not coming in there to feed.
No.
Now I did kill that one on that cold front.
Yes.
That Burback, we called him a
Yep.
few years back, remember, early, because that cold front rolled in. I have pictures of him every night coming in that same end of that plot to feed.
Yeah, that was in the west end there.
Yep, I did kill him that way.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, they're in like a destination, like I say, it's maybe something we're set up off the side of, and they're coming from a bedding area or going back to a bedding area, and they might hit it
Yeah.
in or out. And that's kind of where we're judging on. You know, food plots, normally the does do congregate in them.
Yeah.
They just feed around in them and stuff, but bucks aren't usually in there feeding with them.
No.
You know, they just don't as much. I think that's a lot of times people get caught up on seeing
Too much TV.
their bucks on their cameras at night in their food plots, but that's kind of normal.
Yeah.
You know, they feed later. It seems that I've seen over the
Yeah,
years.
you'll come in. Well, you'll get them
Or
coming
reeler.
in. Like when you killed that buck, the one you were talking about, Burback, you killed him on a big cold front. That temperature was huge. That big drop, you know, and then big rain and all of that. And he was moving because of the weather. He wasn't moving because that was his normal time to move.
Yeah, no.
He's coming to that food because he probably wasn't bedded, but 100 yards
It's
away,
probably close
maybe.
to it, I'm sure.
And
In the bedding area.
in the bedding area where that was established for him also.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not.
I
Our
get-
food plots are for deer segregation and promoting deer movement. On our particular properties, each one of them is east to west movement
Yeah.
with some north to south level change because
And-
we have height.
And sustainability.
Well-
of our herd, obviously. But
Yeah.
I don't.
Food plots, you can hold more deer if you can
Yeah.
segregate them.
I maybe this is where they get confused as they see you and I talk about plots we stay out of until rut.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not because that's a rut hunting plot. It's because around it, it's the best area that's going to hold those bigger bucks.
Right.
And they feel
That's
safe there. So that's why we stay out until we can get in. You know, and they're your better spots. You're going to have your better spots on your land.
Oh, yeah,
Sometimes it's where a
100%.
plot is. And it's not always where a plot is.
Right.
You know.
And the other thing too, you know, our season here starts early, so September.
Yeah.
Doesn't end up until the end of January.
Yeah.
And your deer move differently on your property over those time spans. So early season deer movement on our properties is different than, you know, pre-rut movement, rut movement, and then post-rut movement.
Mm-hmm.
And figuring that part out is important, and then being able to adjust and place food accordingly, and then being able to place stands accordingly to adjust for each part of what we call the rut, which to us is when the velvet's dropping off their antlers and the hormones are starting to go. And then the pre-rut is where when we say pre-rut, most of the time people don't understand. We're talking about the
aggressive.
stage, their I don't know what you want to call it. Basically, their aggressive stage is what we call it. When you can call to them, they'll come to you. When you could rattle them in, such things like that. That's our favorite time to hunt.
Well, if you look at 2 years back, when you shot Shocker,
Yeah.
and I shot that fat over 10-pointer.
Oh, yeah.
Like, huge deer.
Oh, that deer was.
We both were sitting on a plot,
Yeah.
but they weren't coming to the plot.
No.
You know, you called, the Shocker bit, he came just close enough to see,
Yeah.
which was too late for him.
Right.
And the same thing with that 10, I called to him and he circled me
Right.
and came in behind me.
Yeah.
So he was just coming to look. They were both coming to look. They were not interested in feeding at all.
No.
You
They
know.
were looking for does. They
Yeah.
know the does would come to the food. We called. They answered.
Yeah.
That's how that worked out.
Right.
You know. Yeah. As for the water hole part of things, you know, like you had mentioned earlier, where he had mentioned when you were talking to him about a water hole being a congregating spot. Deer aren't going to congregate around the water hole and come searching for each other at the water hole. They may walk by to check it out, but 9 times out of 10, when they're coming through water, those water holes are placed in those positions for a reason. Number one, it's one of their main thoroughfares anyway. And then now that the deer know that they're there, they will transition through there, stop, drink a little bit, and then move on.
Yeah. That's why we have stands strategic around them.
Yep.
And obviously, you know, you guys haven't been on my property, but they're on either end of the property.
Right.
They're far from each other. You know, so you're gonna have different deer at one end, different deer at the other end. Travel is different on both ends, which is how we set them up.
Yep.
You know,
And
so
we're promoting that east-west movement again. And then there's stands in between the two of them too to catch that transition.
correct.
So, and it's the same on my property, the new water holes that we put in.
Yeah, same thing. We just have water holes dug in.
Yep. Water holes, I think, are probably a safer place to hunt than food plots. Food plots, you can educate deer rapidly.
Well, they're laying so close to it, people don't realize that they're right there.
Oh,
usually,
gosh, yeah.
You know.
And the smaller your property is, the tighter everything is. So depth of cover becomes an issue. More on entrance and exit. You know, figure a food plot is always a evening hunt. You can't hunt food plots in the morning. I don't care what anybody tells you and what time of year it is. Yeah, no, I'm 100%. Yeah, that's
we don't.
No,
You know,
that's crazy.
We get somewhere where they're going to transition back to the bedding. They're not going to be in the bedding. They're going to be in the food. So we want to get in the middle of that.
Yeah, 100%.
You know.
So you definitely have to watch that. The other thing we're going to be looking for, you know, water holes. You can hunt morning or evening during the pre-rut, I think. They'd probably be more active, I think, during the morning, based off of, depending on where they're located.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to watch your entrance and exits there. But,
Yep.
I mean, that's how I see it. Got anything to add?
Yeah.
Yeah. We appreciate you guys listening. Hopefully that answered your question. If you get a chance, subscribe right down here in the lower right-hand corner. Just hit the Reaper here at Rush Outdoors, Wisconsin. If you guys want to listen to us on the podcast, you can check us out at Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, iHeart, YouTube, Spotify, and
RSS.com, baby.
right on. We're getting out there.
Right on.
We appreciate each of you listening. We'll talk to you guys next week.
See ya.